Hi, I'm Alison Fennell, the potter and artist, and every second Wednesday I'm going to start offering a free video on YouTube for beginners, and it'll show you all the basic skills you need to get going in watercolour. We'll keep it simple so that you can get traction and get some easy wins with watercolour. There'll be a paint along pack with it which you can buy if you want to, and that will be in a link via the description under the video. Or you can become a patron of mine on my Patreon site, and if you do that you'll get all of the paint along packs for free for as long as you're a subscriber. So over time you'll save quite a lot of money on that. For all the details you want about becoming a patron of mine, just click the link in the description below. But for now, let's get on with painting our pumpkin. Okay, so we're ready to paint this pumpkin now, and the two colours that we're going to use are Perignon Orange and Manganese Blue Hue, and these two colours are opposite each other on the colour wheel. So let's get started. First I'm going to mix up a nice puddle of Perignon Orange because I want to paint it all over the pumpkin. So we're just going to cover the whole pumpkin with this colour, including the stalk, okay? Okay, so the pumpkin is now full of that Perignon Orange. Now what we can do is, while everything is still wet, we can go for some more Perignon Orange, but much stronger. So it's much more pigmented than the first wash. And paint that all in this darker area that you can see in the grayscale posterized image, and up into the stalk a little bit. Okay, so already we've got a bit of a darker area starting on the pumpkin. At this point as well, we can use our thirsty brush, which is a brush that's it's a flat brush, and we're going to dip it in water to soak it very well. And when it's absolutely soaking, we bring it out and we wipe it on a towel cloth. And now we've got something that's like an eraser, and as you can see on the posterized image, we've got quite a pale area here, so we can suck some colour out like that. Hasn't got to be exact, but just roughly in the area that you can see on the grayscale where there's some highlights. The paint might seep in a little bit, but that's okay. It'll all add to the painterly image. Now finally, we're going to drop in a much darker shadow here again. So we're going to pick up some more Perignon Orange, that sort of consistency. And now we're going to add some Manganese Blue Hue into it. So I'm picking up some Manganese Blue Hue, mixing it in. And you can see that's quite a lot darker, isn't it? But it's still orangey. So straight away, while the paint is wet, we'll drop this darker shadow in around the bottom of the pumpkin as well, and all up on this right hand side where the pumpkin is in shadow. And then we can have a few lines coming down in the grooves where there's shadow in the pumpkin segments. Because we've got a bit of moisture on the pumpkin, we could pick it up a bit. See the moisture there? That's the moisture. You can tip the pumpkin a little bit and just let the paint run back and forth and blend in a bit more softly. Doing this also gets rid of some of your brush strokes. If you've got any lines that are spilling over a little bit too much or spoiling the look of your pumpkin, you can use your thirsty brush again, which has been rinsed in water, wiped on a cloth, so just like an eraser, and then you can just hoover up, touch into any sort of marks that aren't looking so good. Also in the stalk we could pull out some highlights as well. So on the left hand side we'll pull out a highlight there, rinse your brush, get the paint off and wipe your brush, and then there's a little highlight just in there at the stump where it comes out of the pumpkin. So press the corner of your thirsty brush right in there and lift a little highlight out as well. If it starts seeping back in, just rinse your brush, wipe your brush, and then touch in and reclaim that highlight. This highlight on the left has started to bleed back in, so I'm going to do it one more time, and then hopefully the paint will have dried sufficiently to stop it bleeding so much. Now let everything dry. Now the painting is bone dry, and we're going to try and lift out just a few more harder accents and highlights. So with your thirsty brush again, rinse it very well so it's totally soaking wet, then dry it on your cloth again, and now we've got an eraser, and I'm going to pick out this highlight here. So you need to rub back and forth, and depending on whether your paint is a staining paint or not, you'll get some paint come off. This one is a bit of a stainer, so we won't get a lot, but we'll get some. So rinse my brush again, wipe it on my cloth, and just keep rubbing on that paper, and we'll get a slight highlight. And then taper that away as it goes up into the top of the pumpkin. The highlight is fatter at the bulge. Same with this one, I'd like to make this highlight stronger. So I've got my clean thirsty brush again, I'm wriggling my brush back and forth to dissolve that paint, to reactivate it so that I can wipe it out. Rinse your brush often and dry your brush often so that you've got a really clean eraser of a brush to lift out this colour. And again, wipe out that highlight and taper it off a little bit as it gets to the top of the pumpkin. Right, what we're going to do now is add some darker accents to the pumpkin. So with my size 6 brush, I'm going to pick up some more Fennell orange, mix it into that dark colour we used on the previous part, add some more manganese blue here until we're looking at a much darker colour again. Darker than the colour that's already, darker than the darkest dark that's already on there. And the way you can do that is take a little piece of paper, put some paint on it, and hold it next to the darkest part of your pumpkin, and if this is darker, then we're on the right track. So now I'm going to start putting in this darker paint, starting right over here where I see these dark marks, and I'm using the finest part of my brush, the last hair of the brush really, to put these dark accents in, tapering it away, thicker at the bottom where it'll be more in the shadow. And again, taper it away, perhaps a little bit higher than this one, so we've got a bit of variation. And as we're coming over to the right, the pumpkin's getting more and more in the shadow, so we need much bigger arcs of shadow colour going up, and that's going up almost to the top. Next segment, this is all in dark now, so we can put a lot of paint on, and then only when we come to the top of the pumpkin can we sort of become thinner with these marks. And this whole right hand crescent is in shadow more or less. Now on the stalk there's a bit of a shadow in there as well, and a bit of a shadow on the cut end, and there's a little dip where the stalk comes out of, which is dark, and then the shadow again. Right, now all those shadows I've put on have got a hard edge on them, okay? So what we're going to do now, see there's a hard edge and there's no soft blend. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down, because I need to work now from right to left with a moist brush, and we're going to soften those edges. So the moist brush is still my size 6 brush. I've rinsed it really, really well, and then what I've done, I've rinsed it on my brush, and then what I do is I flick it like that on the side of my jug. And with that slightly flicked brush, which has got a little bit of moisture in, I'll start right over here and gently rotate into the edge of those shadows to dissolve them a bit. And you've got to work quick, because you don't want them to get you don't want them to dry too much, otherwise they won't dissolve so easily. So watercolour is all about timing. Try and do the dissolving quite soon after you put the shadows on. Don't go away and have a cup of tea, because it'll have gone too hard. Okay, so you can see that's softened it quite a lot now, isn't it? Just rinse my brush one more time, and again flick it like that back and forth on the edge of your jug, and then let's do the same with the stump. We can just gently paint over them. If you go slowly like that, the slowness allows the paint a little bit of time to dissolve. It gives it time to catch up with you. And then we've softened the stump dark shadows in as well. And there's our pumpkin. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.